The role of open source is to continue what it's been doing today, which is evolving open source and merging with the standards. As we see the coming together for 5G, that need for scale, that need to adopt that innovation from an open source perspective, but merging with some of the standardization. I think that's key.
We commit, and I say we because we in Telefonica are participating in open source communities as well. We commit some people that are either developing or either contributing by testing and validating what the open source communities are producing. And we are using it, I would say that more than really by directly using the open source products. Right now, what we're doing is precisely asking our providers to bring things that are either using at the core these open source developments or are compatible with these open source developments.
Open source is open, right? It's driven through communities, and therefore, we are one of the players, but not the only. So we need to admit that. So open source can only survive if you not only consume but also contribute, right? So we need to bet on one or two as CSPs ourselves, where it brings the most business value today, and really contribute together with our vendor partners. The speed of innovation, if you look at where we are and compared to, again, the web scalers, hyperscalers, how quickly we try and fail and again learn, it's just too slow. And this service agility that it offers us, the innovation speed that allows us, this is what makes us, at least in my opinion, push towards more usage of open source.
We as telcos, from my opinion, we do not differentiate much on the infrastructure layer. So is it really worth to have a better cloud than the competition? Probably not. The differentiation from our perspective is more on the service layer. And this is where it comes down. So far, CSPs are much more focused on that infrastructure layer, and we must learn from our perspective to move to that service layer in order to best meet our customer needs.
I think one of the things that the open source communities are really good at is being able to very quickly prototype and showcase early functionality. And I think that the telcos in this standardization process could really collaborate generally much more effectively with the open source community by leveraging that ability to make the process of finalizing the specifications more efficient and getting it done quicker.
Back when I did standards, we'd spend all these years writing a standard, and then we would come to implementation and find problems. So having a more early, often iterative feedback loop on some of the things the telcos are trying to do, I think is really useful. We're seeing some work where various standards bodies and telco and the open source communities are actually working together to improve standards and to get standards implemented in open source.
What we see is further demand, and 5G is really going to push the limits of scalability. And I think the challenge for all of those working in the open source community is making sure that solutions are fit for purpose in terms of scaling from thousands of devices to tens of thousands of devices in that 5G wave of momentum.